It's 6:30, so chance of now we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to call this meeting of the Great Island Advisory Committee to order on Wednesday, August 23rd at 6:30. Thank you all for coming. We're all here except for Lori, who is out of town, so she couldn't be here tonight, but the rest of the team is here. So thanks for coming. We got a few things to cover today. As I previewed at our last meeting, Monica and other members of the town staff will provide an update in terms of what's happened on the island since acquisition and how that's coming along in terms of our general effort to get access to the public, which I think is pretty important. We've got a few other things that we want to cover too as well, including organization of the committee and our near-term focus, particularly after Labor Day when everybody's back in town and engaged on this. I thought I would go through, as a sort of preface to Monica and others' comments, just the general short-term questions that I think we really need to answer before we get into some of the bigger strategic issues about what we're going to do with Great Island. One of them is and it's also sort of centered around public access, and they're kind of the following. Is Great Island safe? Can you go up there and not hurt yourself and have access to the island? Do we have signs and we cleared hazards? What areas are open to the public and the areas that are not open? Is all that duly secured? All that stuff, and we'll hear more about that tonight. The second general question is, what can the public do when you get there? Right, so, okay, I'm now on the island, what can I do? Certainly walking, I think all of us have now been on tours of the island, and it's quite a nice place to walk, and so if that's all you can do, that's probably enough. It certainly was for me when we went the other day. But getting a sense for what that is and what we would advertise to the public that these are the things you can do. Another, I think, area of consideration is what are the rules? What can the public not do? What behaviors and norms are expected? What's the enforcement of all that? Are there violation enforcements? And how do we manage all that? Do we even have security on it? So there's both sort of what you can do, but also what you can't do and what we expect you to do when you're on the island. And then finally, one that Tony and I talked about when we were on the tour is how is access actually and practically going to work? Let's say we're going to go out and see the island. How do we get there? What happens when we get there? Where do we park? Do we need permits? Can you access the island by boat? I mean, there's all kinds of things that I think we need to, as a committee and then working directly with the town to assist them, we need to come up with a clear articulation of exactly what that is. What does it practically mean to access that island? So I think that doesn't mean that we're not going to consider the bigger strategic issues, but we have that very near-term imperative is that we got to get the public there, and we got to be crisp and clear as to exactly what that entails. And I think those questions I think ought to be first and foremost over the next meetings. Now, Monica and of course others will let us know where we are on a lot of those things. Last thing I'd say, just to the public, the members in different groups, over a few days had a chance to tour the island and spend some time there. I think you all now have seen it and seen kind of what we have. Personally, I came away from I forget how many times I've been there now, but it's pretty inspiring when you see it in terms of opening your eyes as to what we could do with the property like that. It's the assets are quite remarkable, particularly the stables. The old house itself, it's old. And would certainly need some work and some thinking, but just to see it out there, it's really quite a special place. I think everybody's really going to enjoy it when we get there. So let me end my comments there, and let me turn it over to Monica and let her tee up her discussion for us today.
Well, thank you. Great to be here. Thank you all for doing the tour. And I think being on the island and seeing it firsthand is really, really super important. So everything that John said, I agree with. I just want to reiterate for our community that that this is for the future. That it's still not, residents still cannot go on it. However, we are excited. The Selectman's Office is working on a bus tour. So what we are envisioning is a 1-hour bus tour. You'll be picked up off-site. There'll be a reservation system, and it'll be about, I don't know. We'll run buses for probably 2 days. We're thinking a Friday and a Saturday. And we'll have 2 stops where people can get off the bus and walk around, probably down by the little pool, by the little beach house down there. and then people will get back on the bus and then go over to the main house, walk around, get back on the bus, and then leave the island. So that's kind of what we're thinking. We had this in the works before, and we kind of got sidetracked. So we're working on this for late September or early October, somewhere in there. So the details are still, we have a few things to work out, but it'll be an opportunity for people to get on the island. And I think that once you actually are out there, your appreciation for it and your thinking for what we could do out there it will be impacted. So it's important for our residents to, it's great to watch the presentation and look at the pictures, right? But once you're actually out there, I think you'll get a better idea of what you think some of the uses for the structures there and for any other activities. So that's our goal, is to help residents, give them a little bit more information so that when we're looking for ideas, they'll be a little bit more aware of all the possibilities. So we have, as John said, the town has been working, and I'm going to ask Ed Gentile, our Director of Public Works, and Tony Campanella to go through kind of what we have been doing there on the town side and what we're going to be moving forward with on some other projects. So, Ed.
So I should have warned you ahead of time, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
Let's move it over a bit. There you go. Well, thank you very much for having me. Ed Gentile, Director of Public Works for the town of Darien. With me tonight is Anthony Campanella. He is Facilities Supervisor. He has done most of the heavy lifting over on Great Island, so I will not take all credit for that, but him and his crew have done the majority of this work. And I want to give you kind of a flavor of what we've been doing, some of the things that we plan on doing, some areas where we will ask for some input from the committee. I think it's important that you folks, get in and get dirty real quick with us. Show us how you feel, what you think we should be moving on, and what you should. But we'll give you some guidance on what we've been finding, and hopefully we'll work together to make not the island and the facilities the best place that we could possibly make it at this time, and the safest place we can make it at this time. So some of the maintenance work that we've been doing up to date in scheduling now daily, if you go down there, we do have a contractor that's on site 5 days a week. He has a 3-man crew. They're either cutting grass or trimming trees or weed whacking. They handle some of the stable work also. So there's 60 plus acres out there, so they are busy every day. We do check on them that they're getting things done. We do help them out on occasion with certain things that are bigger, that need some bigger equipment to move things around. So we've been working together down there to clean up the island as you'll hear as we go through. So we've done about 7 dead tree removals already. Either they have fallen or they were creating a safety hazard. We do only do that type of work on Mondays because of the stables and the horses there. We've been working with that facilities director on making sure that we don't disturb the horses. I think that's an important thing for us to get our work done and to keep the peace right now with the people that are there.
Going back to the landscaper, it's their equipment, right?
Correct.
That we're using?
Yeah, and we do allow them to store some of their equipment in the boathouse right now. We do charge them to do that. So we've worked out a contract out. We'll talk a little bit about that later when we go over some of the contracts that we have in place. But these are the original guys that were there when the property was owned by the Steinkrauses. And it's been a pretty smooth transition, and they're really actually good workers to have there. Their knowledge is important, and it's what we're using right now to move forward with some of the work that we're doing down here.
What are their hours at?
They start at 7, they end at 3. They work the same hours that we do. So there is some tree trimming work we did around the roadways for emergency vehicle access. We did have our chief fire marshal grab a large fire truck and take it around the roadway, identify some areas that we needed to do some road raising on the trees to provide that access. We did some of the larger trees had stumps that had been left in place. We removed all of those to make it safer. There's some more now that we have to go back down and do again. But we find that getting those out of the way also making the place a little bit safer. We did driveway pothole repairs. We We painted and repaired some of the speed humps that are there. They were very difficult to see. We just recently cleaned catch basins on the main road that comes up from Rings End Road to the cul-de-sac. There's 6 of them there. We did those recently. There are others on the island that we will get to this fall, as soon as the manpower for DPW gets back to where we should be.
Hey, did you say cleaned or repaired? Cleaned.
We cleaned them. So far, we haven't come across any that need repair, but if they do, we can do that also. We've included some signage on the property. One stating no public access, the second one stating warning, this property is under 24-hour surveillance. Driveway entrances have them. The boat dock, the beach house has them right now. If there's any additional ones that the committee would like us to put in, more than happy to install them. We get them quite quickly and have them up wherever you'd like to see them. So that's one of those things where input from you guys are important to things that you may hear or things that you saw on the tour that we may have been looking at, just maybe need some more additional input from it.
So Ed, on the signs, they're at the entrance on Good Wives, and then they're at both entrances
At the cul-de-sac?
at the cul-de-sac,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
one of them on the main road, the stables, is at the cul-de-sac. The other ones we put on the far side of the causeway, so you could see them as you come in. And at the boat ramp and at the beach house also.
Yeah, so the causeway ones are on town property.
That's correct.
And there are 2 of them.
Correct. One on both sides of the roadways.
And all empty buildings have them or no? I'm thinking the root cellar, I'm thinking the big house. I don't know what they call them.
No, we didn't specifically put them on buildings. We put them where we thought there'd be access. Roadways,
Mhm.
boat
Okay.
ramp, beach. But your suggestion, if you'd like to...
Good question.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
What is the surveillance on the island? You said it's 24-hour surveillance.
We're just going to get to that bullet point right now. Nice segue, thank you. Right, we do have added security cameras in multiple locations. We do review those chips every 2 weeks to see what we've come across. Mostly animals, but some of them we do have our residents visiting the site, so we've been upping our visits over there. I know the police do go through and visit the site and check on the security of that. We do have someone from Parks and Rec that goes through there in the evenings. So Tony's there on a regular basis. We also have the landscapers. They give us a call when we have some people that don't belong out there so that we can remind them and just ask them to leave.
And
Any
you-
activities of concern observed?
No. Nothing that we would need to address immediately. And which says something for our residents. We have people that actually respect the property, but they are as curious as you folks were before you went out. And even more so as we're going to talk about things that we're going to be doing out there and just getting out on the island and using it. The bus trip is going to be something that's going to be filled up quite quickly.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I think we should be reviewing those more frequently.
No problem.
Okay.
Sure. We did do a little infrastructure work, identifying and opening our water meter location. To our surprise, it was located off the turnaround at Ziggy's Way. It's in an easement. So basically, our water service comes across the grassed causeway, not the one with the driveway on it. So we were quick to identify everything's working fine. We had the water come out and pull the manholes. We did take a look at them. We identified some of the water valves and we opened them and checked them around the horse paddocks as we checked the infrastructure there. And we did have some bees nests on the boat dock, so we were adjusting those too. So basically, we've done a lot of landlord property ownership stuff around the facilities. Now we're going to get into some of the facilities because we've done some work in there too. Some of it code work, some of it just regular maintenance, some of it utilities and appliances and things like that.
And excuse me, the
Sure.
grass causeway that has the water main, that's the emergency?
That's correct.
Yeah. Ed, why don't you show?
Yeah, where is that? So, this right here is the grass causeway. Here's the boathouse, right here. Here's the main driveway causeway from the circle. So this is the grass one. This says Coons Point Road. It has been renamed to Ziggy's Way, and that's where our water is tied in. So going through some of the facilities, the beach house area, We did some work on the jetty out there, some rebars that were sticking up. We went out there at low tide and removed them. We have requested some warning buoys. We're still working with the DEP on that for just outside the jetty area. Repaired leaks in pipes and sink traps in the beach house itself, and repaired some of the windows and broken glass. So again, some general maintenance to make it watertight.
Ed,
Yes.
you want to show where the rebar was?
Sure. Beach house.
Yeah.
Here, this right here is the jetty. And at high tide, you can't see it. Mid to high tides, you can't see it. So pulling up on a boat maybe, or even, whatever, jet ski, whatever, just to keep it safe. We thought the deployment of some buoys out there would be beneficial. So the main house, there wasn't much to do. We did some repair on the thermostat. It had the heat running about a month ago. So we shut that down, repaired the thermostat. There is some repairs to the doors that we do have scheduled that face the water. It will stop all the leaves and the water from coming through the threshold. So we're gonna do some work there too. Again, trying to get the facilities watertight to keep them structured, sound.
No mildew in it?
We haven't seen mildew per se, but it's an older house. What we're finding, of course, we found when we did testing is some lead paint on all the walls. But there was plenty of plastic there from before, but we didn't find any mildew or something we needed to address right away. But when we take it apart, we may find that and we'll have to address it.
Hey, I do have a question. When we visited, it was very hot in the big house.
Yeah.
And it was a cool morning when we went. I don't know, is the heat on still perhaps?
We shut it off.
It is
Boiler's completely off.
We shut the
Yeah,
boiler
I felt
off.
one of the radiators, and it wasn't hot, but it
It's
was.
just retaining heat.
No.
There's stuffy in the house, no doubt.
Yeah, okay, so it is off. Okay.
It is off.
Yeah.
Once we fixed the thermostat, made it was working, in case in the winter we have to turn it back on, but then we shut everything down after we checked it was working.
The front side of that house faces east, so the sun comes up and early and shines in there. So that house would heat up in the morning pretty quickly.
Okay, so for the main house, go over to the stables. We did service the boiler there. We did repair the dryer and the venting for the west apartment on the upper level. And I say that because it's important. That system up there for that dryer is a gas dryer. So proper coating and venting for that is important. So something that we were brought to our attention that we repaired right away. We did identify some roof damage. The left section of the roof needs repair, so we did get a quote to do that work. About $9,000. We haven't scheduled it yet, but we're looking to get that done. The guy that's doing the roof over here for us, he's going to give us a schedule when he can do that.
So Ed,
Yes.
on that, the tiles that are loose, that's not a danger, right, of them sliding off the roof?
No, I think this roof here, there's some leaks at the dormer
Yeah.
where the roof and the building come together, so it's more flashing than it is roof tiles, but there are some tiles that are loose.
Right, okay, but that's not a worry.
It's not a worry for us, but we'll have him take a look at it while he's up there and see if there's any that need to be reconnected or tied back down.
And the gas you referred to is liquid propane?
Yes, it is. We will be also at the stables checking the sump pump operation. They have some window wells at the lower level that they said on occasion heavier rains will let water in. There's sump pumps in there that have to work. We're coming up with looking at maybe a different system to protect that, so that sump pump doesn't need to work, which is maybe window well coverings or something that would protect from the water going in. The White House that's right to the east of that, there is a pool in the back, so we've done a pool equipment assessment and got quotes to fix it. We didn't do anything with it, it's not supposed to be used, but we did look at the equipment to see what it would take to get it up and running if we had to. We do have to put and finish the pool enclosure, so that work is going to be scheduled once we get a quote to do that. By building code, we have to have a full enclosure around it with a gate,
So Ed,
self-closing gate, yeah.
you want to go through the equipment problem?
Well, it's
And
just
keep-
the pool pump itself was not functioning.
Right,
We got a quote to replace that and repair it.
right.
And I think Tony was working on that.
And the pool, we're keeping the water in it.
Yeah, there's water in it, cover on it.
So once that pool fence enclosure is done, it'll be a meet code and it'll be safe to be around that area. We do right now have 2 tenants in there, but they're not using the pool. And finally, part of that, there's also
Where's
some...
that exactly?
I'm sorry?
Point that out where that is.
Sure. This is the house here. You can see the pool in the back.
Yep.
These are the stables here.
So it's 40 Great Island is the address.
That is 48. The white,
I think I got it wrong.
Yeah, it's 40.
So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. A lot of the houses
fix
have
that now.
names, you know, the pink house, the green house. This is the only one that goes by its address.
I'm gonna predict that you folks are going to learn the names and the numbers together, because I'm gonna ask you to do that, because it's very, very difficult to send somebody out to the White House, or the Pink House, or the Juliet House, or the Dolphin House. So when I send utility people out there, or contractors, I'm gonna wanna use the numbers. So I think we need to become more familiar with that aspect of it too.
Got it. Message received.
Can you put them on the map?
Ooh,
If they're there, I can't.
No, they're not. The utility map we have that we're putting all the infrastructure on, will have the numbers on all the buildings.
Perfect.
And it'll be electronic, so we'll have access to it. Everyone will have access to it. So the sump pump check at the White House is our last thing that we have to do to make sure it continues to function. It does have a basement that it's not finished, but there has the heating equipment in the basement. So we're making sure that sump pump works. The Pink House, which is over here in that corner, number 18. We did do some work in the kitchen. We had to fix the drain underneath the sink. It had come dislodged. We got a call from the renter that there was water all over the kitchen. There was a flood. Got out there to find that basically the sink had been disconnected. We are continually checking the sump pump in that basement. It does see water on occasion. And there is a section with a Bilco door outside that has a drain at the bottom that needs to be repaired and allowed to drain. So that work is being scheduled also, that we get to clean that out. There was some standing water at the bottom of those steps.
Ed, is there any water at 40?
When I was in there, no.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah.
And it looked like it had been dry for a while. So there was no evidence of any mold, mildew, anything, any musty smell. We did some work at the greenhouse. We fixed the dishwasher, and there was there's been pointed out there's some issues with the back doors. We're going to work on those too. That greenhouse is up here at the entrance, here when you come up the roadway before the stables. Squash building, that's down by the beach house. We repaired missing floors on the second top of the stairs on the second floor. There had been some damage from tree limbs gone through the building. We did identify some roof damage and obtained a quote of almost $4,000 to do the repair there. That's work that's to be scheduled, and we'll get that done as soon as we can. Same roof company, same price. We get them over to do both of those at the same time. We'll get those buildings watertight again. The stone garage is is right here. And I hope you folks got the chance to go in and see it. It is it's a nice building. It has been left to its, to Mother Nature and weather, unfortunately. So we really don't have anything planned in there, though we did obtain a roof replacement or roof repair number. The contractor, all he would do is give us an estimate of about $100,000 to do that repair on that. So that may be something you folks may want to talk about later, and how, when you get to how we want to use it, then I get to tell you what it's going to take to make it watertight out there. So as of right now, there's nothing inside that can be damaged with that roof the way it is.
Ed, how long has that been damaged, do you think?
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah. Was it a tree, right?
Yeah, and they pulled the tree off, but they never covered the section of the roof that was damaged, unfortunately.
Is that a slate roof also?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, it is. All right, so those are the buildings. That gets us to maybe get an idea of what we've been doing just to keep up with the general maintenance, what we've been doing to keep our tenants happy in the place and safe, and keep our buildings safe also. So some other remediation maintenance work that we do have planned, we should talk about the driveway entrance, because that's the big piece of access, right? We need two-way access right now. That roadway is not built for that. So starting from Rings End Road all the way up to the cul-de-sac, We started the design about a month ago. We've planned for a 22-foot wide roadway. We are planning a 5-foot walk to get you from Rings End Road up to the cul-de-sac. This work will include approximately the removal of about 16 trees. There will be retaining walls required when we finally install the roadway to retain the road itself on one side and the hillside on another. Now, the design plans will include a planting plan to address the tree removals along that roadway. Some other work that we plan, we have underground storage tanks. We have removal and replacements that we had done some estimating work on when we were going through the purchase process for this property. The main house has a 2,000-gallon tank. It's underground behind the house.
What kind are you storing, what, is that in oil tanks?
Yes,
Yeah.
both of them are oil tanks, are underground storage, are both oiled.
Do we know how old they are?
I do not have the age on them, but they would be required to be removed and placed inside. If we want to go with that type of fuel system and keep the boilers that we have in there or whatever. Right now, an estimate we had predicted was somewhere around 26 grand to remove the oil tank outside, soil testing, backfilling, and put a new one inside, and then make that function. Again, these are one of those items that I hope to get some input from you folks on, whether to do that now or should we wait until we decide how we want to use it. Right now, the oil, there's oil in the tank, there's a heating unit in the building. We do have a functioning heating system for the main house that will keep it warm. So there's nothing that's going to happen to that building as of this time.
And didn't we test it to see on the sealant if it's solid?
As far as
No
air pressure
leaks.
system on?
No leaks or anything like that?
We would have to do that before we pull it out of the ground.
Okay.
That would be the time that we do the testing on that.
Okay.
And in the house right next door to it, they call it the Dolphin House. This would be just to the north. I keep forgetting I have this here. So there's the main house here. This is the Dolphin House at the top. Both of the oil tanks are out back here in the grassed area. That's a smaller tank. It's only 275 gallons. We have about an $11,000 estimate to remove. Again, input from the committee on whether we hold off on removing anything right now until we know what we would like to do. But these are very rough estimates, but I erred on a little bit on the high side just to, make sure that I wasn't lowballing it too much, to give you a flavor of what things would cost as we start to do them.
And do we need to take them out? We don't, right?
I think we do need to take them out.
Eventually.
I think we should take them out of the ground.
But do we need to take them out?
Immediately?
Yes,
There's no sign that there's leaks in those tanks right now.
right.
But not knowing the age of them, I wouldn't want to leave them in the ground too much longer, thus creating a leak, then a hazard that we have to clean up.
So when you say too much longer, are you thinking 6 months, 6 weeks?
I would
6
say
years?
that, we probably have about a year or 2 years before I start to become uncomfortable.
Okay,
I think that, from what Ned had said, they hadn't had any problems with leaks, even with the tanks that they did remove. They were pretty solid. The one by the stable did have a small leak. They did remediate the whole thing. We have the documentation for that.
right.
I don't want to have to get to that point with these, especially the 2,000-gallon tank was a little.
How much oil is in that one?
We just had some of it filled, right? They just did a fill on those two tanks.
Yes, I don't recall how much.
But they didn't top it off,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, that would be a question. It's like, are we going to put 2,000 gallons in a tank that holds 2,000, or are we just going to put 500 in it?
Right.
Because,
It's heating in a vacant house. I mean, it's large, but it's empty. So.
So, but again, as we go forward into the winter, some guidance on what you folks would like to see out there. I'll give you, and Tony will give you our professional opinions on what we're doing out there, and are we wasting heat, are we wasting oil, should we shut the building down completely? We'll give you our opinions on that. That should help you.
that furnace though feeds, it's one furnace for the main house, if I think, right? It feeds the rental apartment? Or is it
There's separate units on each one of those.
Oh, there are.
structures. Yeah,
So we're really just talking about the 2,000 gallon feeds the main furnace for the unoccupied portion of the main house?
that is correct.
Okay.
So Ed, the other villa has an in-ground, has an
Above ground.
above ground?
Yep.
So they just did the one?
The Juliet.
The Juliet house has a tank out back.
Right.
above ground.
Right, okay.
And the Dolphin House still has theirs underground.
Okay.
Along with the main house, has their
Right.
own underground.
Right,
I think it may make sense to remove these at some point, but I think maybe before we go installing them back inside the house, we should maybe figure out what we want to do with those houses in terms of rebuild, leave dormant, raise it.
And if you, I know we do have someone in the Dolphin House right now, but if the main house is, we're not going to heat it, we'll drain all the water so we're not bursting pipes in the winter, we make it weather tight. We'll remove that oil from that tank, so not to expose ourselves to any risk. We can do that.
That touches on a question on, smaller buildings like the squash court building. I don't know if we're going to keep that building. That's a long-term strategic decision. But at what point would you just say, look, we're going to cordon that off, don't go anywhere near that to the public, and defer any kind of maintenance until we make a decision as to what we're going to do with the building? It's worth considering because we're spending money on that, and we might decide later that particular building might come down just because of its condition or the way it could be used. I don't know.
yeah, I think that's next phase.
My point is, he's going to spend $4,000 now to fix the building. Do we want to do that now? Or do we want to cordon the building off and just wait? Right, because, you're putting flooring and kind of fixing it up a bit.
We made the floor safe up on the second floor so you could actually walk on it now.
Okay.
And the roof outside, those are exposed. So instead of doing like a full major repair, then maybe Tony and the guys, we go out, we make it watertight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we do it on our own.
Yeah,
To stop any damage.
To stop any further damage of water
I
getting in.
I agree that sort of any material CapEx on these buildings
We hold.
should be withheld until we actually decide what we're going to
Yeah,
do with it.
yeah.
That's my point, is just to put it through that lens to say, look, this just stabilizes it until we can make a decision as to what we're going to do, but not anything more.
Okay.
Yeah, the squash court does have furniture in it that belongs in the main house, so it does need to stay dry.
And not knowing where the leaks are going to in the stable
Yeah.
would be me giving you more information to help you make a better decision, or a decision on the repair there. We'll give you that.
All right.
We do have some old transformers that were left in place. They're next to the new transformers that are being used. There's 4 of them. Those need to be removed. Right now, they're sitting with PCBs in them on the property, and we should have them removed. So we did get an estimate from $35,000 to $50,000 to have all 4 of them taken, removed, and disposed of properly. We do have asbestos in a couple locations that we'd like to take out. In the stable's basement, same thing with the pink house in the basement. A lot of it is the older pipe wrap that's there. Though the public doesn't have access to the stable area, the pink house, we do have a renter in there, though he rarely goes down in the basement. But we should be at least addressing some of these asbestos issues while we can.
Okay.
So Ed, you're focusing on the pipes, exposed pipes.
Yeah, and that's where we were given information from our consultant of the areas that we needed to address.
Yeah,
You
there's-
haven't observed asbestos in it's pipe wrap, it's not spray on anywhere, it's not friable anywhere, it's just in those pipes where you've actually seen it?
I've seen it in both of those basements
Okay.
and also in the main house. But
In the
as of right,
basement.
since no one's in the main house right now, it's not an area that we're going to focus on. The other 2, there's access to them. Pink house and stables seem to be something that we should address, but it's mainly pipe wrap that we've seen and it has been listed as to being removed.
Because it also may be, even though there's no one in the main house, we might want to look at removing it all at once and having the contractor and his people out at once, because it's,
I don't know, Mike, there's a lot in the pink, there's a lot in the main house. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's.
What I can do is when we start, put it out to bid, get an estimate, bid them 3 separate items, and we can pick from a menu on what we'd like to do. And if it is cost prohibitive, then maybe it waits.
I think things like the pink house is in very good shape, right? I mean, that's sort of strong bones. I think the stables are as well. Other things that we don't know what we're going to do with.
Mhm.
And if people aren't going to be actively in there, either a renter or somebody in the stables, feels like that's maybe,
We can wait.
we wait on, any kind of material investment in those.
That's the feedback I'd like to hear from you guys. That's going to give us some guidance on which way to go when we get out there.
Let's not put curtains in the main house yet.
No curtains.
But the,
Tony, no curtains in the main house.
but the two that we're talking about doing now, I mean, it's a question of when, not if. I mean, it has to be done. And so,
Right.
regardless of whether we repair buildings, remove buildings, whatever happens, the asbestos has to go.
Right.
There is a need to run a new electric line from the stone garage to the beach house. That stone garage here, right now, there's an underground line that goes up through these driveways all the way over to the beach house. It has been repaired multiple times from what the previous owners, it's no longer functioning. Trying to find the fault in it has become difficult. So what we had planned to do and had gotten an estimate to do is basically run a new line right up this driveway, all the way here, and tie the building in and give it power again. We have a rough estimate of about 40 grand to do it. That's one of those decisions you folks, right now it has no power.
And what does the power in that beach house?
Just lighting, plugs.
Refrigerator.
Refrigerator.
It used to, there was a generator.
I'm trying to think of
Yeah.
anything we're needing to use right now.
I mean, if you needed to meet out there and needed power, we could bring a portable generator, we could hook it up. That's what they were doing previously. Again, this is I have marked here for a committee decision to let me know, should I do it now? Should I hold off for, I mean, again, to use of the building, how are we gonna use it? When are we gonna use it?
Yeah, my question was going towards, is there anything that needs to be powered, like to keep it heated so the pipes don't freeze or
No,
anything like that?
we drain those, we just activate it. In the fall, we'll winterize it, so there's no water in the pipes.
I think even, the extent of running power there, which if we're gonna keep those houses, we eventually need power. I think the roads that we run them along, even though that may be kind of closer as the crow flies, just think about like what will be the ultimate roadways or pathways. And if we're gonna want things like pathway lighting and so forth there, you may wanna run it a different way to be able to accommodate that. So I think, soon we need to start thinking a little bit longer term about those type of things as we deal with short-term things like the power.
And that quote, that $40,000 quote, was that trenching? Or is that,
Trenching, installation of the conduit, and pulling the wire.
and so it's along the side of the road or
Yeah,
underneath the
that's
road?
where I put it. I wouldn't put it under the road.
Okay, so no repaving?
You try to avoid that.
Okay, yeah.
And if you've been out to the beach house, you could see that the roadway down there is a little rough.
Yeah.
So that's going to need to be addressed eventually, or maybe not. But I wouldn't want to put it under the roadway. In case we do pave it new, then I have to do a repair or something. It doesn't make any sense. Or tie something in to use the power for something. It doesn't make any sense to put it under the road.
What size service you bringing out there, 100 amp, 200 amp?
I really don't know. We haven't
Well,
looked.
40,000 must be a specific size wire.
Right now, it was only 120. It's a small building with very little power draw.
I'm sorry, does that mean you bring in an 8 gauge wire or 10 or 12?
Probably a 10, 8 or 10, but most likely it can't be much smaller than, I don't know, 100 amp service.
I guess I'm just thinking that if we're gonna spend $40,000, somebody needs to think ahead as to what's the final solution gotta be in that built for the beach house and bring that in and spend 50,000 and do it right rather than 40,000.
Yeah, I think maybe we're conflating things. Definitely 120 service, but I think he's saying a minimum of 100 amp. So, the minimum of like a house.
And is that, well,
Yeah.
not your house, not my house. I don't think they do 100 amp. But in any case, it should be what it needs to be in the future, not what it needs to be.
But we can wait on this, right? This
For the
is,
time being, it's functional with the generator?
It could be if we had to, yeah. Yeah, if we had to do something out there. As of right now, if we do any work down there, we bring our own generator on our vehicle to do any work down there with power equipment. So,
I think maybe after this meeting, one thing that would be helpful is kind of like we do for the Board of Education. There's a listing of all the projects. There's costs associated with those projects, and they're prioritized in some way. So you say, look, these things, we've got to do these things. So it's an asbestos question or it's a safety issue. And so here's what the list is, here's what the cost is, here's the status, done, in progress, to be done, whatever. And then there's the other stuff that you say, we're going to need to do that, but it's pending input from this committee. Are you guys going to keep this building? Do you want to go down this path? Do you want, I mean, all of those kinds of projects that need to be done, but really need input from this committee in terms of, to Jim's point, longer term, what are we going to do with this? Or if we're going to do something longer term, it could suggest a different electrical solution or a different capacity solution that we might put in otherwise. And just to be able to kind of look at those two lists and get a sense for where we are on the priority stuff, what decisions do we need to make, and what's the current view as to what all this is going to cost? I mean, unless anybody disagrees.
No, I think that would be very helpful, because, like, ultimately, these ideas or proposals will be socialized to the Board of Selectmen and other governmental bodies, so to the extent that it can almost be, flow chart like if this, then that, and obviously what we're doing now is preserving our options. I mean, we're talking about doing things to preserve our options, to make intelligent decisions as we go. So what projects fit into that parameter? And if there's some building that's in great disrepair, that would mean an enormous amount of money to preserve. That should probably be something that's brought to our attention first, because it may force our hand to make a determination about a particular structure if it's going to need an immense amount of work just to preserve it. I think those are the kinds of decisions and the kind of information that'll be helpful, to have globally as we go forward. This is terrific, and it's an immense amount of work, and you guys are doing a fabulous job, out there. I'm just thinking of information presentation so we can give you the, help and assistance that you're asking for.
I think it can also help to set a cadence to our decisions. If there are certain maintenance decisions we need to make, and those maintenance decisions are based on whether or not we kind of, let's just say, keep a building or maybe tear it down, we would need to begin to make those decisions ahead of time so that we're not investing large amounts in something that we ultimately don't want to keep or we want to replace.
Yeah, to our point, all capital right now should be geared towards simple preservation pending decisions. So
I like this. It's just Tony and I, we've been feeling and Monica feeling like we've been trying to get to a point where a little bit of guidance on, now that we have a group, where the group would like to take this. So as much as this list seems long, I just felt like we weren't moving quick enough to get where we want to go. So I do appreciate the input.
I think that's why you formed the committee, isn't it? Just checking.
Yeah, but a lot of what has been done needs to be done regardless of
Yeah, no doubt.
what's done on the island, so.
I appreciate that you guys have all done like a lot of work, taking stock of what we have and what's coming down the pipeline, short-term, medium-term, long-term, and now
Yeah.
it'll ultimately percolate to this board to recommend to the Board of Selectmen what to do.
I just have a question. So we're talking, just to cap off the conversation about electric from the garage to the beach house, but what amperage electric comes in from like Rings End Road to where? Like what, are we at 400 amp?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't know if Tony can answer that either. But it doesn't come in from Rings, it actually comes in from Long Neck Point.
By the barn, like across?
Yeah, it actually comes down Great Island Road.
That's the access by that access way by the
So
barn?
our power is up here that feeds the island.
Okay.
It actually is fed down along through here.
Yeah, because there's green boxes, electric
Yep.
boxes right there, yeah, at the circle.
Yep.
But you don't know how many amps are there?
I don't.
Okay.
And like I said, we're learning things every day about that facility between fire hydrants, water systems, electricity. And we're trying to keep notes on everything that we're finding, trying to update our mapping, which brings me to the next point. We have septic systems that are out there right now. We're going to take those, superimpose them on our topographic map and make sure we have good locations for them, and then check on the last time that they were pumped and cleaned. That's going to be another service area that we have to take care of right now, because we are not tied to the low pressure force main sanitary sewer. Nothing on the island is. And we will be doing continued tree removal and maintenance and inspection throughout the bridle paths up here. We haven't been up in this area yet, but it's a good idea to take, people are going to start walking in there, see if there's any thing that we should be addressing. Hangers in the trees, old dead trees that need to be coming down. So last item for me is that we do have some contracts. We do have a contract with Santos, who does the landscaping. We have it from May 8th to December 8th, at which time his contract, we'll call it a summer contract, if you will, runs out. We did ask him for a winter contract proposal, and we're just looking at that right now, trying to nail down what we actually need him to do on that site during the wintertime. Snow plowing, snow removal around the houses that are occupied, salting, any type of maintenance around the facilities. I think all the things I think he used to do. We asked him to give us a proposal to do that, and there may be things that we continue to have him do, maybe not. And those are items where Tony and I will be taking a look at.
You'll take, DPW will take over the roads? Or no?
I haven't decided that yet, to be quite honest with you. Knowing the area and knowing what we have on our plate right now, that's a discussion I need to have with the first selectman and with my highway supervisor about if we did, how would we do it? What can we do and what needs to be supplemented? Because there's a lot of handwork that needs to be done around there too. Smaller parking lots around the stables, around the houses, the driveways. I don't think I want to put a big truck in there doing it, which means I have to put a smaller truck, still backing around and things like that. And it's a little bit different than just plowing the streets.
Tony,
Understood. Yeah, my question was specifically streets.
does the stables do their own plowing? I forgot what
I
they,
don't believe so.
No.
I think we're doing.
We're on it? Okay.
Attached driveways and things.
Yes, and they're
And
walkways.
okay.
Oh, that'll impact public access during the winter as well, for
Right.
safety and all of that.
Right.
And the other contracts we have one currently with city carting for the garbage at the facilities, the people that are renting, the stables and so on, and the other one is the oil for petrol oil. So that's all I have for me, if you have any questions.
So you haven't really evaluated the conditions of the paths and whether they be safe for people to walk on?
I've walked down them a couple times already, and I don't know if you folks had a chance to walk out there. They're in decent shape. They do need a little dressing up, and we'd absolutely do that.
Yeah, they need work.
But right now, my concern is getting out there and looking at the vegetation with the leaves on the trees. Last time I was out there was a little bit closer to the winter where they hadn't come up yet, so seeing a dead tree right now is a whole lot easier to do. We do have a special guest out there on the island in that area, so I have to be very careful of that too while we're out there working.
Ed, so let's wrap up the underground storage tanks. I want to know, can we wait on that safely for a year? Are you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable waiting on it.
Okay.
I just would like to know if we need to heat that main building. If not, then I'm going to stop the oil deliveries and I'm going to remove the oil from that tank. That I'd like to do.
Is there an economical way to pressure test those tanks to see if they're...
I can have it pressure tested. I'd like to do it before I remove it, though. That would,
Yeah.
because if something happens and I'm removing it, I'm okay, I'm removing it. If something happens and I don't plan to dig it up, I'm going to be digging it up.
You're saying the pressure testing can create a problem?
Yes.
Absolutely. If the tank is weak in any place, that's the idea, is to find it. That's what the pressure test is for. Or tell you that you're okay, you have a good tank.
Yeah, you
So,
mentioned
but
the big house could be winterized. Could we get the usage on the oil from Petro? Were they the supplier to know if it's
Yeah, they were.
3,000 gallons, 5,000 gallons, 10,000?
Sure.
That way, if we winterize
Yeah.
it, we know what we're saving relative to the cost to winterize.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's a cost to winterize it and then to unwinterize it, right? To make sure that everything works again once you fire it back up again. So there's just the,
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
So
we'll,
it'd be good to know.
yeah, we'll get those
And
numbers.
understand, we have a gentleman on staff that does that winterizing for us, for our facilities, all the parks and rec facilities too.
Mhm.
So we save a lot of money doing it ourselves.
in-house.
I don't think it's ever a good idea to not heat a house even if you winterize it. You should be kept at 50 or 55 degrees.
I stand right next to you on that comment. But, again, older building, what's the use going to be? How would you like to
Yeah,
proceed?
unless it's coming down.
So, all
Right.
right. I don't know if,
No, I
hand
think
the
you-
floor back to you.
I think you
Okay, good.
covered it.
Especially for our four experts, did you guys have any comments, having seen the island now, that you'd like to make?
Well, it was my first time there, and no photo could adequately capture the grandeur of the place, so
No.
I'm very glad. Excellent tour. Monica led us on, very thorough. My head was just kind of awash with all the different possibilities. I also think I better appreciate the challenge of access and parking, and that is really going to drive the end uses.
No.
Because we're going to be very intentional, and space is at a premium for any of those things.
No.
I was glad to hear there's going to be a 5-foot walk path in the road design, because I'm assuming we would want to encourage access on foot, given the parking constraints.
No.
But the architecture of some of the buildings is phenomenal. I think there could be some unique uses for all of them, really. But it becomes a triage of what are we willing to spend, and how does it fit in with the input we get from the public, and then how does it work as an overall program.
Bruce, you kind of grew up on the island, so you...
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway from walking it was that parking, just as Jeff said, parking really is the first order of business, I think, because like was said earlier in the opening of this meeting, the pathways that exist are suitable in a lot of cases for walking or biking. But if you're arriving from across town, you need to park your car somewhere. So I think that's kind of the one that really stuck with me, is just that we'll need to address that right away to create the initial access.
Okay, yep.
I think there's a lot there that we can make use of already, so that was encouraging to see. But as we talked about with all these estimates, there's a lot of hurdles to get through as well. And I wonder if that's an opportunity to pass on some of that knowledge to residents on the tour, kind of point out a lot of the challenges so they're aware.
Okay. Dan?
Is there, I haven't heard anybody mention
Seen it.
whether the prior owners had a property manager or a full-time maintenance guy. Isn't there some person who knows how old the tanks are when they were installed, somebody who's been there for 40 years, 60 years, or whatever?
Well, we have a lot of information on the actual assets, but we hired the landscaper who kind of came with the property, so.
That's the only one who came with the property?
Yeah.
There was no,
No,
maintenance person?
no, there wasn't a, no.
There wasn't
There had
an
been, there had
There
been,
wasn't.
Well,
There was
there was a
years ago.
caretaker, yeah.
yeah, but years ago. He retired, and
So he's still in town?
he actually, I met with him, wonderful, yeah.
We can pick his brain?
I'm sure he would be, you know what?
That's actually a good
That's a great idea.
suggestion.
I will reach out and see if he wants to come to a meeting.
A couple of questions I just had for you, Ed. Of all the cost estimates that you went through of stuff that you're definitely doing, do you have a ballpark total of all that in terms of where it stands right now? Or we could get one on the project list you're going to come up with, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Let me go through that, because
Okay.
the number I'm seeing in my head right now is everything.
Okay.
And I don't think.
We may not do everything. That's fair. What are your objectives, and what would you like to see done by the end of September? And what's on your hot list to get done by then?
I really want to get rid of those transformers.
Okay?
Those things to me are number one priority, along with the asbestos in the building. So any type of remediation, I want to get it done as soon as I possibly can.
Okay.
Ed, are the transformers, I'm sorry, we finished.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Are they a danger?
No, they're just sitting there though, and, things tend to, happen.
Well,
And I
yeah,
don't
but
want
they're locked up, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, no, you can't get that at them, but to get rid of them, when they're sitting next to the active transformer, I actually have to shut power down. on the island.
They have PCBs in.
Yeah. And there's one that we noticed had spilled onto the concrete, so when we take it out, of course, we're gonna have to clean that up and dispose of it, so there is a little remediation to do on the floor itself.
But when I think when you give us the list of sort of
Yeah.
capital projects, it'd be good to include things like that where regardless of what our plans are, those need to be removed. So if that's the case, let's get hopping on those things right away.
No, I will give you my priority
Yeah.
as I work my way down through those estimates that I do have. The other ones, I can understand the squash. The stable though, I don't feel that anyone is leaning towards taking that building down, so making that watertight in an area where people are living right now, that's an apartment area, I think it would be important. That would be one I'd like to do too.
Yeah, that one, absolutely. I'm just talking about
Yeah.
the squash court building.
Okay.
You see it, you think, I'm not so sure that's a keeper. But,
And I'm actively working as hard as I can on that driveway entrance design.
okay,
That's gonna be, it's gonna take a little bit of work.
all right. So I think one of the things that we'll want to do fairly soon is to try to get this committee, once we're past Labor Day, a lot more synced in with the work that's going on in town. So that's not to oversee or supervise all of that, but just to make sure that we've got different groups of folks tuned into that work and maybe specializing in being tuned into that work, right? So it could be safety orientations, it could be activity planning, it could be transportation, parking, and access. One of the things I like that Monica had come up with is a straw man around how we could organize the committee and get different folks focused on different areas. Because then what could happen is that when we're not having meetings, that you could interact with town staff and say, okay, what about this particular aspect of the work that's going on? And particularly with the four of you and your expertise and background, depending on how we deploy you organizationally, you could maybe ask some questions, just like when we have a building committee. Some of the guys on building committees we've had in the past that had a lot of expertise, as you gentlemen have, can just ask good questions or try to be a sounding board, just like you had suggested was a good idea when you were giving your presentation. So I'd like to get us organized where we could do that. And so maybe at the next meeting, what we'll do is Monica has a list of different committees that we could actually consider, but that also could be shaped by your expertise and background, where you could kind of say, okay, given where I am and my interest and focus, I'd like to actually be the point person on that for the committee for X, and then you guys go do that. And then what we'll do is try to align you with the town staff that's focused on that, so that outside of a committee meeting, you could have a separate chat or inquiry, just when you come back here, you're well informed. I don't want to put too much structure around that, because then the subcommittees have to have televised meetings and all of that. So this will all be just sort of informal, so that you guys can report back to us and help the town staff as they work through all this. I think that work will also help inform the next phase, because you'll be a lot more familiar with certain aspects of the island in terms of capacity that allows us to do certain things. Well, because of this constraint, you can't do those things, and I happen to know about that, having focused on that. So we will do that at our next meeting. I think for now, meeting monthly makes sense, unless anybody has a different point of view. So we try to meet at some point. Was this the last Tuesday? What are we, at the last Wednesday in the month? Second, third Wednesday, something like that. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll come out with a proposed meeting schedule that gets us through the end of the year, and has monthly meetings by then. Anybody have a different point of view?
Is this a good time for people?
Yeah, it can be, it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So,
So tell me, would you propose something like that works in the context of other board meetings and so forth, and try to have
Yeah.
something that's
I
every
think this-
2 or every 4 weeks and
yeah,
certain nights?
I think this meeting does that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this meeting time
Yeah.
and date actually works for that. So something like that, so whatever that third Wednesday of the month is, maybe that's what we'll do for September, and we'll try to get that on the calendar really for the rest of the year, same meeting time through the rest of the year. And let's just go from there. As work picks up, or there's some reason to change that schedule, we can do that. Okay. Other questions, comments, or input?
I just have one more thought with Ed's comment about the design and the redo of the road from Brings End Bridge into the circle. I think that's very clear that work just has to happen, and a lot of that stuff is kind of no-brainer stuff. But I think the one that we really need to be focused on is the visual of the entrance to the property. Right now, it's got the iconic gates that where you approach. I believe, they're clearly too narrow for what we need.
Yeah.
And so to preserve that entrance, but with that 5-foot walk on the side and everything, I think just so that when the design of that happens, I know I would be, and I think probably a lot of us would want to make sure that that is preserved. So if
Yeah,
it's going to get wide,
yeah, we are looking
it's
at.
balanced
yeah,
on both sides.
We are looking at using the same pillars and using the same look.
And just
but-
kind of moving
but
both
expanding
sides
it.
out by
Yeah.
4 feet so
Well,
that it stays.
More one side, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then will you just circulate that once you have the,
Yeah, once we're further down the road. on
okay,
that.
thanks.
Yep.
On that same theme, though, for putting the enclosures up, are we trying to keep consistent with enclosure on the pool, I think you said it? Or is there a thought to keep it consistent with the look now, or?
No, I think this is just a safety thing.
temporary
Yeah,
safety.
we're doing
Yep.
low cost on that.
I mean, I think the bus tour is a fabulous idea, and I think is as soon as practicable, because that'll build momentum and support. That might generate ideas, from the public and engagement, and then it gives us the ability to not be in such a vacuum, because
Right.
we've given the opportunity
Sure.
for folks to go out there and then to send us their comments or thoughts or
Yeah.
whatnot, and it may help them as we report out, and we have these meetings,
Yeah.
they'll understand, like, oh, yeah, I know the
Yeah.
big building,
yeah.
or whatnot.
No, don't worry, Ed, we'll be on numbers by then.
But what, it's just the numbers.
But I want to get that done on the earlier
Yeah.
side, so that if we want to do it again, we are still within the weather, kind of
Oh, I agree.
good weather, so, yeah. So you'll hear about that as soon as we have those details.
I think those will be a big hit.
Yeah, huge hit.
Yep.
I think maybe the one comment I'd say maybe in closing is, the island is obviously wonderful, but I think I was impressed, and having been out there 100 times, I was impressed this time. I think, Tony was in our group, but seeing the amount of work that our staff that just kind of gets up, plows the roads, turns the lights on, deals with all the normal stuff of running the town. I thought it was amazing, the two of you and your team, in terms of like the bandwidth, whether it's electric fences around remediation sites or electricity, or the amount of things that you all can do within your team that I always envisioned we'd have to bring outside people in to do. So I think kudos to your team for sort of the width of your skill set and the amount of things you can get done inside a day's work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
bravo, it's amazing.
Great point.
Yeah. Okay, 2 comments from me just to wrap things up, and then we'll adjourn. One of them is that at some point, we're going to get into strategically what to do with the island, and so even though we're not at the point that we would want to discuss all that right now, I would still encourage not just this committee, but anybody watching, if you've got ideas or you think you've got something that would really work for this island, let us know. You can find us all on the town website, send us an email, give us a call. We'll get your idea, we'll log it, and when the time comes for us to discuss those types of things, let's just go through the list of ideas that we've gotten from the public. We'd love to hear from everybody, especially practical ideas, so don't hesitate to send those in. The others you can take a little longer. Okay. And the last point, just to reemphasize Monica's earlier comment, we are still in the phase of preparing the island for access. I would urge the public to respect that. There is no public access to Great Island right now, and nobody is supposed to be out there except town staff. It's a safety issue, and we would strongly discourage you from doing that. Please abide by that rule. We will get the island open as soon as possible, and we do. We're confident that you'll really like it. So that's all for me. Any
One
else?
last.
Oh, please.
And if you've sent in ideas before about what to do on the island, don't feel that, I have a folder, so don't feel that you need to send them again. Those will all be circulated.
Yep, good deal. Anything else this evening?
No, thanks,
Okay,
John.
thanks for everybody for coming. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, Mike and then Mark. All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thank you.